The first time they met, he tried to save her, and she tried to kill him. We start off in a high school, where we meet a student on his way out of class, Akihito. He notices someone standing on the edge of the school's rooftop. Worried for her safety, he decides to run up to try and talk her out of it. Upon reaching the top, he makes a heartfelt plea, which summed up is basically, she calls him unpleasant before doing a sick backflip and landing right in front of him, wielding a crimson sword that appeared out of nowhere. She stabs him through the chest, saying that he picked a fight with the wrong person. To her shock, he not only doesn't die, but he instead asks her politely if she could please remove the sword. About a week passes, and we see Akihito talking with his literature club president, Mitsuki Nase. They're discussing what sort of books they should showcase for their year's display, when they hear a crashing sound coming from outside. Sighing, they think it's most likely the girl we saw earlier. Akihito goes to investigate. He walks out of the room and past a very well-hidden Mirai Kuriyama. As he walks down the hallway, she follows close behind him, being so sneaky. When he suddenly stops, Mirai tries to hide in a nearby supply locker, which doesn't really go smoothly for her. Akihito turns around, saying what a surprise it is meeting her here. Mirai agrees. He says like hell it's a coincidence, before telling her to give it a rest. He's already told her that he's immortal. It doesn't matter how many times she stabs him, she won't be able to kill him. She says that it's his fault she keeps trying. She's never heard of a shadeling who could survive this many fatal wounds before. He again explains to her that he isn't a dream shade. He's a half shade, an extremely rare entity which is the child of a dream shade and a human. She says that it doesn't matter. As long as she is a spirit hunter and he is in some way a dream shade, she is perfectly justified in her actions. She says goodbye. Akihito returns to the club room and explains that he's made no progress in trying to get her to stop killing him at all. Mitsuki asks him why he doesn't just let her stab him to her heart's content. He says that even though he's immortal, he still feels pain. Later that day, as Akihito is leaving the literature room, Mirai is there waiting for him. He asks if she's going to try and kill him today as well. When she asks why he stays so late at school every day, he explains that if he left any earlier, then he would risk getting attacked by her in front of other students. She says he wouldn't have to worry about that, as she has set up barriers that would make sure they're alone. He says that he's never heard of anyone who uses their blood to form a sword before. Mirai explains that spirit hunters used to shun her clan for having a cursed bloodline, that because her clan's abilities were so powerful, they were hunted down and as a result her clan died out, and now she is the sole survivor. She summons her sword. Akihito immediately runs right past her, saying that he's making a tactical retreat as he knows he can't beat her in a fight. She chases after him. She tracks him down into a classroom, where she checks behind the teacher's desk, then hears a noise coming from a locker at the end of the room. She carefully makes her way over to it, when a phone goes off. As she looks at it, Akihito pushes the locker onto her, trapping her inside. Using her sword, she begins to break out, like it's some kind of horror movie. Upon fully breaking out, she exclaims that she can't see, and asks what he's done to her. Yeah, that's just a bucket. As she takes it off, her stomach growls and he asks if she's hungry. Just then, a monster crashes through the window into the classroom. We find out that this is a full-blown dream shade. A woman runs in, kicking the dream shade in the face, causing it to flee out the window. After it lands, it runs off, unnoticed by the students. The woman asks Akihito if he can call the cleaners for her, before jumping down after it. Akihito explains to Mirai that the woman is a teacher in the school, Ninomiya Shizuku, and is also a somewhat famous spirit hunter around these parts. Sometime later, Akihito is treating Mirai to dinner, which is a pretty good deal for her, considering she's attacked him so many times. When it's revealed that she's almost never taken out a dream shade before, she defends herself by saying that her clan was hated for their blood manipulation powers, so she has been trying to hide her abilities by distancing herself from any shade hunting business. It then dawns on Akihito that she has been using him as practice to try and get her skills back up, since he is immortal. The next day at school, Akihito sits down to have lunch with Mitsuki. After a brief chat, she lets him know that the Nase clan, her family, is wary of Mirai, and tells him that for his own safety, he shouldn't get any further involved with her. That afternoon, as Mirai again waits outside the club room for him, Akihito completely ignores Mitsuki's advice and asks her to have a chat with him. Outside, they sit down on a bench, and Akihito asks her if she had any specific goal or reason for coming to this town. She says nothing in particular. He doesn't really buy it, but doesn't push any further. She begins to eat some food, when Akihito asks her why she doesn't just eat at home, then asking if there's some reason she can't. She's such a bad liar. He asks if she wasn't able to pay rent, or if her house is so full of trash that she can't get in. She says she's paid up until the end of the month and her house is clean, when he finally realizes and asks if there's a dream shade haunting her house. He says it's not surprising, as they can sometimes be attracted to the power of a spirit hunter. He begins to walk off, telling her that he will help her kill it, explaining that if it helps her gain some confidence, then he won't have to worry about getting stabbed anymore. They make their way back to her apartment, and it's looking pretty empty. Akihito asks if anything looks different, when the lights in the room begin to flicker, and a faucet turns itself on. He tells her to get ready, and she pulls out her sword. A few moments pass, when a speck on the wall begins to move. Mirai lunges at it, but it escapes into the floorboards, where it begins to shoot sharp bandages out. A piece cuts her, and she counters, when it fully begins to come out of the floorboards and assemble into its proper shape. Akihito suddenly has a flashback to a time when he was in an open field over a body, with blood all over his hands. He hears Mirai call out to him, and he snaps back to his senses, as the Dream Shade charges at him. She manages to come in clutch and save him from it. As she is asking if he's alright, the Dream Shade begins to unravel itself and escape through the glass door. Akihito tells her that she needs to destroy its eye. That's the only way to kill it. She sees the eye as it passes by, but misses the killing strike. She gives chase. Very slow chase. Once outside, they stare down each other for a moment before clashing. We see Mirai gracefully cutting up the attacks when it hits a sandpit next to it, blowing up sand and dust. It uses this time to hide underground. Bandages suddenly come up from every angle, trying to attack. When Mirai easily cuts them up, she jumps high into the air, finding the Dream Shade. She deflects the bandages and goes for the attack, when she gets pulled short by her sword, now revealed to be tangled up by the bandages. The Shade forms a lance and springboards towards her. She lets the sword drip down, reversing its shape and slicing up at it. It falls back and she lunges after it, stabbing down towards the eye. Just as she makes contact though, she shuts her eyes, not wanting to see. Akihito asks her if she got it, and she says she did, when she looks down and is shocked to see that the eye can move freely around its body. It scurries off. Mirai wants to just let it go, stating that it wouldn't come back now. Akihito tells her that she won't earn anything if she quits now, to which she says that's fine. He then asks her in that case, how is she going to be able to eat tomorrow, or afford next month's rent? It really do be like that sometimes. She then begins to chase it up the side of a building, where upon reaching the top, it makes wings out of its bandages and begins to fly off. In response, she takes off the ring on her pinky finger, which changes the sword's properties. She swings her sword at the Shade and blood flies off of it. When her blood makes contact with the Shade, it immediately erodes the bandages and it falls to the ground. She makes her way down to it and readies her sword, when she begins to have flashbacks and can't bring herself to kill it, until it again begins to attack her and she is forced to. After she stabs it, it begins to shimmer and disappear, leaving behind an ore-like stone in its place. Mirai falls to the ground and Akihito runs over to her, asking her if she's alright. She says that she's just a little lightheaded, as she was using her blood after all. The next day, Akihito takes Mirai to a place where she can get the Dream Shade Stone appraised. The door to the shop opens, revealing a young girl, Ai Shindo. Akihito asks her if the owner is in right now, but she tells him that the owner had a late one last night, so she's still sleeping. Meanwhile, Mirai squares up, pulling out her sword and asking how he's talking to a Dream Shade so casually. He explains to her that there are all different kinds of Dream Shades. The owner of the shop and I are both Dream Shades, who have a proper license from the Spirit Hunter Association to appraise and process other Dream Shades. They liken it to how even though humans are mammals, they can still appraise cows and pigs. Mitsuki finds them, and Akihito introduces Mirai to her. Seeing as they can't get the stone appraised at the moment, they make their way into school. Later in the day, Akihito goes to Mitsuki's older brother, Hiromi, to try and find out why the Dream Shades are acting so aggressive lately. But all he really manages to get is touched creepily and given a few roundabout answers. After school, Akihito makes his way back to the appraisal store, where he finds the store owner, Ayaka Shindo. He asks her if Mirai has dropped by yet, which she says she hasn't. She then says she's replaced the old barriers around the shop, which hide it from a regular person's view, because the old ones were starting to lose their effectiveness. But any spirit hunter should still be able to find the shop. We cut outside and see a sad Mirai walking around, looking lost and unable to find the shop. Mitsuki finds her, telling Mirai to follow her, guiding her through the barrier. As they're walking, Mirai asks Mitsuki why she's friends with Akihito. She replies, saying that she's more or less observing him before they arrive out the front of the shop. Inside, Akihito has given Ayaka a magical postcard from his mother and wants her to show him what's inside it. She waves her hand over it when he asks her if she can please pretend that this never happened. When she asks if that was his mother, he admits it was and explains that she's always been crazy. To his shock, he sees that Mirai and Mitsuki have also made their way inside and have now seen his shame. They convince him to play the rest of the message, and after a bit of booty shaking, his mother explains that an incredibly powerful Dream Shade known as the Hollow Shadow is heading their way. It has no physical form, and it's said that it once defeated 5 top spirit hunters within 5 minutes, so avoiding it and waiting for it to leave is really the best play. Akihito suspects that the Hollow Shadow is probably the reason behind all the dream shades becoming so aggressive lately. Now that the entertainment is out of the way, they begin the appraising ritual for Mirai's dream shade stone. Ayaka takes a close look at it, and we cut to some time later, where it's revealed that despite all the work it took to kill it, Mirai only got $10 for her efforts. As a reward for helping her take out the dream shade, Mirai treats Akihito to dinner. While they're eating, she somberly tells him that he shouldn't get any more involved with her, explaining that they are different and this is goodbye. She says she can't live the way he does, a fun life with others. He asks her why, when she tells him that she doesn't deserve it, as she has killed someone she loved with her own 2 hands. I just wanted to say a massive thank you to everyone who's joined us over the past couple of weeks. Usually, this would be for 1,000 subs, but we have well and truly destroyed that goal, haven't we? On to 100,000? In all seriousness, I appreciate you all, and hope I can continue to make videos you enjoy.